Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every woman's journey when silence speaks louder than words, when absence carries more weight than presence, and when self-respect rises higher than any relationship that failed to value it. Let him feel the weight of losing you, not as revenge, not as a game, but as a declaration of your worth. Let him sit in the silence he created. Let him feel the emptiness he carved out by taking you for granted. You were not asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person to give what he was never willing to. And now the chapter has turned. He thought you'd always be there waiting, forgiving, compromising, explaining your value like a sales pitch. But your worth isn't up for negotiation. Your presence was a privilege, not a punishment. When he wakes up and reaches for what is no longer his, may the weight of your absence remind him of the love he mishandled, the loyalty he overlooked, and the effort he dismissed. This isn't bitterness, this is clarity, this is healing, and you are no longer a second thought. You are the storm he thought would pass, but now you are the calm he'll never return to. Let him face that truth. So many women spend days, months, even years searching for answers from someone who walked away without explanation, without accountability, without a trace of the love they once promised. But let's get one thing clear. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself. You don't need to sit across from someone who shattered your heart just to hear a half-baked excuse masked as truth. You don't need to hear, "I wasn't ready," or "it's not you, it's me," because none of those words carry the weight to undo what's been done. Often, the truth is far more silent, far more painful. He knew what he had, and he still chose to risk losing it. Waiting for closure is like standing at a locked door, hoping the one who slammed it will come back with a key. But here's the truth. The moment you decide that your peace matters more than his reasons, you become the closure. When you stop chasing conversations that only reopen wounds, when you stop drafting messages you'll never send, when you stop hoping that he'll somehow wake up and realize what he lost, that's when the shift happens. You go from being the one who was left to the one who finally left emotionally. Closure isn't found in his words. It's found in your decision to stop looking back. It's found in the moment you realize that your healing doesn't need his permission. Closure is the day you stop asking, "Why did he treat me like that?" and start saying, "I will never let someone treat me like that again." When you were there, he didn't notice the little things, the way you checked on him without being asked, the way you held space for his dreams, his stress, his silence. He didn't notice how you softened your tone just to avoid arguments, or how you dimmed your shine so he could feel brighter standing beside you. Your presence was constant, unwavering, patient, and completely taken for granted. He thought you'd always be there, because you always were. He got used to the sound of your support, the comfort of your consistency. He mistook your availability for obligation, and your forgiveness for weakness. But the day you stepped back, the energy shifted, and the silence began to scream. Because when a woman who gave everything suddenly gives nothing, the absence echoes. It doesn't whisper, it roars. The phone that used to light up doesn't anymore. The comfort of knowing you'll be there at the end of every hard day vanishes. The little "I'm proud of you" messages, gone. The emotional safety net he never appreciated until it disappeared, ripped away. You see, your love wasn't just affection. It was structure. It was emotional labor. It was the glue holding pieces of him together that he didn't even know were falling apart. And now that glue is gone. The calls don't come. The presence he ignored becomes a void he can't ignore. That void, that silence, that sudden absence of your warmth, your loyalty, your belief in him, that is the weight he never expected to carry. He may not have acknowledged your presence while he had it, but now he's left to wrestle with the truth. You were the best part of his peace, and now he has to learn how to live without it. There's a power in silence, but there's a different kind of power in growth. The kind of power that doesn't beg for attention, doesn't scream to be noticed, but simply becomes undeniable, and that's exactly what you must do. Grow, not for revenge, but for rebirth. You don't need to update him on how well you're doing. You don't have to prove to him, or to anyone, that you're healing, rising, and evolving. Just become. Let your growth speak for you. Let your new boundaries speak louder than your old wounds. Let your new peace overshadow the pain he left behind. When someone mistreats you, they secretly hope you stay broken, because a broken version of you won't hold them accountable. They expect you to fall apart, to wait by the phone, to second guess your worth. So when you don't, when you level up instead, that's a language even silence can't mute. Every time you choose peace over bitterness, every time you pour into yourself instead of trying to pour into someone who left, every time you show up for your future instead of chasing closure from your past, that is your loudest message. Growth isn't loud in the beginning, it's quiet, it's unseen, it's nights of crying alone, mornings of getting up anyway. It's replacing anxiety with discipline, it's turning self-doubt into self-trust. It's slowly becoming the version of yourself he didn't think you'd ever find again. And eventually, when he sees you, whether through a screen, a whisper from mutual friends, or a memory that hits at 2 a.m., he'll realize something. You didn't just move on, you transformed, because while he stayed the same, repeating cycles and avoiding growth, you did what he never expected. You healed, you elevated, you became a woman he no longer recognizes, but one the world can't ignore. There's a moment in every woman's life when she finally gets tired, not of loving, but of proving that her love is real. Tired of justifying her worth to someone who should have recognized it without being reminded. Tired of trying to explain why she deserves respect, effort, honesty, consistency. At some point, the explaining stops, not because she's cold, not because she's bitter, but because she's done watering a relationship that refused to grow. You don't need to announce that you're leaving. You don't need to craft the perfect speech or type a long message explaining why you're stepping back. He knows, he's known, he saw the signs, he felt the shift, but he chose to ignore them, just like he ignored your voice when you were still willing to speak. Real detachment doesn't come with noise, it comes with stillness. It's not a dramatic exit, it's a quiet reclaiming of self. One day you just stop responding, not to punish, but to protect your peace. You stop hoping he'll finally understand. You stop needing him to validate your experience. And that's when the real shift happens, not in him, but in you. Because detachment isn't about hating him. It's about loving yourself more. It's realizing that trying to convince someone to care is the loudest form of self-abandonment. It's knowing that no matter how many ways you twisted yourself to fit his world, it was never going to be enough for him. So now you let go, not with anger, but with understanding, not to make a statement, but to make a move. You don't throw words at a closed heart. You stop knocking on a door that's already locked from the inside, and you walk, not because you're weak, but because you finally learned you don't have to beg for a seat at a table you helped build. No more explaining your silence. No more announcing your exit. No more waiting for him to catch up to what he should have seen all along. Just detachment, quiet, strong, final. You weren't loud. You weren't dramatic. You weren't asking for more than what was fair. All you ever wanted was to feel safe in his love, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But what he didn't understand, what he never truly recognized, was that you were the peace, you were the calm after his storms, the grounding presence when his life was in chaos, the steady voice when he was drowning in doubt. You were the one who believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. And while he may have thought that peace was ordinary, that your patience was natural, that your loyalty was just expected, he never once paused to realize how rare it actually was. It's easy to take peace for granted when you've never lived without it. He got used to you always being there, to listen, to understand, to forgive. He thought that no matter how careless he became with your heart, you'd always pick up the broken pieces and stay. But love doesn't work like that. Peace doesn't stay where it's disrespected. You were the softness he didn't know he needed, the kind of woman who made his world quieter, gentler, lighter, but instead of valuing that, he pushed it aside, chasing noise, confusion, drama, distraction. He confused comfort with boredom. He mistook your emotional maturity for weakness. He thought that peace meant he had time, that he could play with your heart, and you'd just wait for him to come around. What he didn't realize was that the kind of peace you gave doesn't beg. It doesn't compete. It doesn't chase after someone who's too distracted to see the gift right in front of them. And when peace walks away, it leaves behind a silence that's deafening, a stillness that confronts the chaos he tried to ignore, because now there's no one to calm the storm inside him, no one to soften the edges, no one to quietly anchor him back to reality when he spirals. Now, the same peace he once ignored becomes the very thing he craves, but peace, once broken too many times, learns to protect itself. It learns to stop giving endlessly. It learns to walk away, not with hate, but with quiet strength. Forgiveness is a powerful act, but it's also deeply misunderstood. So many people think that forgiving someone means giving them another chance, letting them back into your life, or pretending like nothing ever happened. But the truth is, you can forgive someone fully and still choose to never open the door again. Forgiveness is for you, not for him. It's the moment you decide you're no longer going to let the hurt control you. It's when you refuse to carry his mistakes on your back like they are your own burden. It's when you let go of the anger, the confusion, the constant replaying of why did he do that? In your mind, not because what he did was okay, but because you're not going to let it define you anymore. You can forgive him without ever hearing "I'm sorry." You can forgive without receiving closure, because sometimes waiting for an apology is just another way of staying tied to the pain. Sometimes that apology will never come. And even if it does, it may be too late or too shallow to mean anything. Forgiveness doesn't mean the wound never existed. It means you're choosing to stop picking at it. You're choosing to let it scab over, to heal on your own terms, without needing him to be part of the process. And that doesn't make you cold. That doesn't make you unforgiving. That makes you wise. It means you've grown enough to understand that reopening the door to someone who broke you doesn't prove your strength. It tests your sanity. He might come back, they usually do, when they feel your absence, when they see your glow, when they realize you're no longer accessible. But just because someone regrets losing you doesn't mean they've changed enough to deserve you again. You don't need to get revenge. You don't need to stay angry. You don't need to harden your heart. Just forgive quietly, privately, fully, but let that forgiveness be your release, not his redemption. Let him live with what he lost, and you live free from what hurt you. Healing is not loud. It's not a performance. It's not about posting curated moments online to prove you're fine. Healing is personal. It's sacred, and most importantly, it's powerful when done in silence. Let him watch from the outside as you begin to rebuild yourself, brick by brick, from the same ruins he left you in. Let him observe, silently and helplessly, as you rise from the pain he once caused, without needing his apology, his validation, or his presence to move forward. Because here's the truth. He thought your life would pause without him. He believed you would wait, that you'd struggle to move on, that you'd crumble without his attention. That's what happens when someone sees your love as dependency. They mistake your loyalty for weakness, your devotion for desperation. But healing in his absence, that shatters the illusion. Let him watch as you evolve from the woman he once knew, perhaps fragile, overly forgiving, always available, to someone he can no longer access, someone whose energy he's no longer welcome around. The same woman he thought would always be there now walks with a different posture, a different glow, a different sense of peace. Let him feel the distance, not the physical one, but the emotional and spiritual chasm that now stands between who you were with him and who you're becoming without him. And no, it doesn't require spite or showmanship. You don't have to flaunt anything. The way you start protecting your energy, enforcing your boundaries, loving yourself louder than you ever loved him, that's the message. That's the proof. That's the healing he never saw coming. He won't see the nights you cried. He won't see the mornings you forced yourself out of bed with a broken heart. He won't see the internal battles you fought in silence. But what he will see is the version of you he never imagined you'd grow into. The woman who not only survived what he put her through, but thrived in the aftermath. Because healing, real healing, doesn't seek revenge. It seeks release. It doesn't go backward. It builds forward. Let him sit with the reality that your healing no longer has room for him. Let him realize that the peace you're now cultivating is peace you had to find without his help, and that means he doesn't get to be a part of the reward. There is nothing more exhausting, nothing more soul-draining, than constantly having to explain your worth to someone who was never truly listening. Someone who heard your words but didn't feel them, someone who nodded in the right places but never acted like your value mattered. You spoke, you cried, you pleaded, you softened your tone, rephrased your pain, and tried to make it easier for him to understand. You thought if you just explained it better, if you were clearer, calmer, more patient, he'd finally get it. He'd finally see that your needs weren't too much, that your standards weren't unfair, that your heart was not a burden but a gift. But you were explaining your value to someone who had already decided it was negotiable. You were making a case for your worth as if it needed to be justified. You were asking someone to treat you right when it should have been a basic expectation, not a request. Here's the truth. The right person never needs a speech to see your value. They feel it the moment you show up. They recognize your energy, your loyalty, your softness, your strength, without needing a breakdown of why it's special. They listen not just with their ears, but with their actions. If you have to constantly explain why you deserve honesty, consistency, respect, and love that doesn't feel like punishment, you're not in a relationship. You're in a never-ending job interview for a role you were already overqualified for. And while you were busy proving yourself to him, he was treating you like you were replaceable. He was comfortable knowing you'd always come back, always explain again, always try harder. Because he thought your willingness to explain was desperation. But what he never realized is that one day you'd go silent, not out of spite, but because you were finally done making someone see what they chose to stay blind to. You are not here to convince someone of your value. Your worth is not up for debate. It doesn't become more valid when someone else finally acknowledges it. It already is valid, because it exists. You were the treasure in plain sight. But he was too distracted, too self-centered, too emotionally unavailable to truly see it, and now you no longer owe him the explanation, because a woman who knows her worth no longer speaks the language of begging. She speaks with her distance, with her peace, with her absence. There are some lessons in life that cannot be taught through conversation. They can't be delivered in late-night arguments, in second chances, or even in the tears of the person who's hurting. Some lessons are only understood through loss, and not just any loss, but the kind that lingers in silence, the kind that comes without warning and stays forever. You tried to teach him through your presence, through your patience, through your loyalty. You gave him time, space, grace, things he mistook for weakness. You made excuses for his inconsistency, forgave what hurt you and held on, thinking love was enough to change him. But he didn't learn, not when you were there, not when you were explaining, not when you were trying to help him grow beside you. Why? Because he was too comfortable. He thought no matter what he did or didn't do, you would stay. He assumed that your love was unconditional, no matter how many conditions he broke. He believed you'd never leave, so he didn't take you seriously. He didn't listen. He didn't change, but now you're gone. And that's where the real lesson begins, not in your words, but in your absence. He has to feel what life is like without you, without your emotional support, without your daily affirmations, without your soft reminders, without your steady, quiet love that held everything together while he took it all for granted. You were his safe place, his emotional cushion, the quiet strength in the background of his chaos. And now, the absence of that safety will scream louder than anything you ever said. He will look for you in other people. He will try to replace the depth of your soul with shallow attention. He will scroll through your old messages, not to respond, but to remember. He will replay moments in his head and wonder, how did I not see it back then? But by then, the lesson has begun. And here's the thing about real lessons. They don't arrive with comfort. They arrive with regret, with late-night realizations, with deep, soul-level loneliness, with flashbacks that carry your voice and your kindness, with the recognition that the person he hurt wasn't replaceable, not even close. This lesson won't be quick. It won't be easy, and it won't be forgettable, because the deeper the love, the harder the loss. And he has to feel all of it now, in the emptiness where you once stood. Some men don't wake up until the woman they took for granted disappears without warning. And when that happens, it's not a punishment, it's reality catching up. Let that reality do what your words never could. So now, let him sit with the silence he created. Let him feel the weight of everything he lost when he underestimated you. You don't need to go back, and you don't need to look back. The chapter is closed, not because of pride, but because of clarity. You showed up with love, you gave more chances than he deserved, You stayed longer than you should have, and still he chose to take you for granted. Now you choose you, not to hurt him, not to make him suffer, but to honor the version of yourself that's finally had enough. You are no longer chasing, explaining, or fixing. You are healing, you are rising, you are reclaiming your power in silence. Let him feel the loss. Let him learn the lesson. Let your absence become the loudest reminder of what he once had and will never have again, because the woman who once begged for love has now become the woman who walks in it, with or without him.